So I'm in the cave of time. Page 10. Gradually, the story tells me, you can make out two tunnels. One curves down to the right, the other leads upward to the left. It occurs to you that the one leading down may go to the past, and the one leading up may go to the future. If you take the tunnel leading to the right, turn to page 20. If you take the tunnel leading to the left, turn to page 61. If you walk outside the cave again, turn to page 21. What am I gonna do? I loved these choose your own adventure books as a kid. I found out from Amy last night, she did not. She didn't want them making her do the work. They were supposed to tell her a story. But me, I loved getting to choose. Apparently, I still dig these books because this sermon damn near didn't get written once I found one of these books online and I started exploring the cave of time. I picked the tunnel to the future, in case you were wondering. And that was the whole idea of these choose your own adventure books. You were the main character. They were always written in the second person that way. And on just about every page, you would read through the little description and what happened, and then you had to choose what you did next. And then you would flip to whatever page they told you, find out what happens. And then every choice had a consequence. You'd choose again until you came to the end of that story, which might be on page 15 or 130. It wasn't in any order. Every choice had consequences. Like the first page warned, it may lead to success or disaster. Now, I say you got to choose, but I guess another way of putting it is you had to choose, or the story just stopped, which, come to think of it, would also be a choice. So the question with a choose your own adventure book was never if you were going to change the story. The question was always and only, how were you going to change the story? It's kind of like life that way. Not if I will change the world, but how. Now, there are differences, to be sure. In life, as far as I've been able to discover so far, for example, there are no caves that I can walk through and travel into the future. It would be cool, though. And if it turns out that path to the future, the one I chose, I don't like how it turns out, in life, I can't keep my thumb on page 10 and flip back and change my decision because I didn't like it. And have no doubt, that's how I read these books. Now, in part, it was, yes, to leave my options open, in case I wanted to escape the consequences of my choice. For example, that cave to the future went so far into the future that the sun was beginning to burn up the earth. Well, that wasn't great. But I also kept my thumb there because I wanted to see how the story turned out with all the choices. That's why these books could take me hours. They were only 120 or so pages. They were thin. But I would go back to the beginning and try and pick new choices over and over and over again. I wanted to see every possible universe I could have lived in that cave of time. Do I end up a knight in medieval England? Do I live with aliens? Do I end up back where I started with my family? But out here, in this great big choose your own adventure book we call life, we make our choices and we don't get to flip back to the beginning or even to the middle. to see if another choice would have turned out better. For us, would it have been better for our friends, for our loved ones, for strangers, for the world? We'll never know. Still, in life, as in those books, the question is never if you will change the world, only how. And those choices are there every day, mundane and big. I struggled today over whether to wear a tie at all and then which one I should wear. Did it change the world? Yeah, it did. In big ways, probably not. But if there's somebody here who hates pink ties with blue shirts, I just made your day a little worse. Or you see a woman panhandling. She's got a sign that reads, "Homeless, anything will help." If you make eye contact with her as you walk by, turn to page 33. If you look away, turn to page 12. If you dig in your pocket or into your wallet and give her some money, turn to page 50. Your friend is telling you about a bad day they've had. His story's going on a little bit, getting a little long, but you can tell they're really upset. If you pull out your phone to peek at your Twitter feed, turn to page 75. If you don't, turn to page 20. The car next to you is trying to get into your lane. Their lane is about to end. Traffic's really tight. You're in a hurry. And he's got a Trump 2020 bumper sticker. Let him in or not? You're a 7-year-old girl, hunkered underground with your neighbors, hiding from bombs and missiles. Do you belt out a Disney tune or keep quiet for fear of embarrassment or making a scene? You know plastic's destroying the planet, but you, Chad, really like Diet Coke, especially in the car on a road trip. If you buy that bottle of Diet Coke, thinking, what difference is one more bottle going to make? Turn to page 12. If not, turn to page 38. Someone tells a racist joke. Do you speak up? Or do you keep quiet because it would just make a scene and it's not going to make a difference anyway? Someone makes a crass remark about homosexuality or trans people. Do you speak up? Or do you think they're just going to keep killing people anyway? Now, I'm a lawyer for many reasons. One of them is I like to tell people how right I am. And I can get paid for that, apparently. But I also believe in this notion, however vague it may be and however flawed it is in its execution, of justice for all. Now, sometimes that really just means offering people and businesses a place in the legal system, a process for resolving their disputes that doesn't involve trial by combat. Although sometimes it feels like trial by combat. And sometimes it means more. Sometimes it means championing a cause or championing people who don't necessarily have a great case. They come looking to lawyers for help. Now, the first of those ideas, having a fair system, being part of that, that's easy for me. That's what I do every day. But that second one, it's not always so easy. I don't necessarily know, I don't come from the same place as the people who come to me with those causes sometimes. They may not be white. They are probably less educated. They are in a very emotional place. And honestly, often their cases, legally speaking, aren't that good. There has been an injustice. There has been a personal tragedy, but the legal system can't always address those. So it's easier to not take the case because I know I'm probably going to lose. And listen to the way I just phrased that. I'm going to lose. This is the way lawyers think. I have to keep reminding myself it's not my case, it's not my life. But when I lose, I disappoint a client. It's a blow to my ego. I might look bad in front of judges and colleagues. So I tell myself I'm too busy. I'm not the right fit. And to be fair, I might not be. I don't have the right legal expertise, also possibly true. Anyway, I know enough to know they're probably going to lose anyway, so why get their hopes up and make things harder for them down the road? And maybe somebody else will pick up the case. And I go back and forth, and I don't say no, but I don't say yes. Do nothing. Turn to page 101. Change the world. Because whichever page you turn to, whatever choice we make, the story changes. The change may be big or it may be barely noticeable. I don't see anybody wincing at the tie. We may never know the change we make. We probably won't. And it is so easy to look at the choices before us, to look at the world around us and think, what difference does it make? To wake up to news of another damn shooting, probably targeted at people for loving the people they love, and say, screw it. It's not making a difference. What's one more plastic bottle going to matter? Yeah, Amazon screws over their workers and screws over small businesses. But it's easy to get stuff, and if I don't shop at them, nobody's going to notice. They don't care. They're too big. Eye contact and a few dollars, that's not going to find a home for that woman. There will still be tens of people by our highways. Little girl's song, that moment of joy she created, that didn't end a war. Racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia. Some strong words from you in the right moment won't make them go away. Why bother? Because it's the right thing to do. But down that line of reasoning, that tempting siren call of a line of reasoning, lies what Reverend Forrest Church dubbed the sin of sophisticated resignation. The sin is particularly insidious, he wrote, because it allows us to feel strongly about injustices without prompting us to do anything about them. Reverend Randall Spalding picked up on this in a sermon that he gave a few years ago, and he wrote that this sin is tailor-made for progressive liberal faith communities because it is fed by our thirst for knowledge. We know so much about the world's problems, and we understand their enormity. We listen to public radio. We get the Atlantic, the New Yorker, Harper's, other magazines that build up in our house and don't actually get read. We say, what can we really do to affect hunger or homelessness, the disappearing rainforest, or the threat of nuclear annihilation? What can we really do to affect the tone of our nation's civil discourse? And hey, I get it. After the 2016 election, sophisticated resignation was calling my name. If the last election 2 weeks ago had turned out differently, I would be standing here thinking, this pitch may not work. But it didn't. Reverend Laura sent out I think you put it on Facebook, Reverend Laura, the bit from Raphael Warnick that a vote is a little prayer. We could have given up on that prayer. People didn't. So why resist the temptation to do nothing? Because it's a false choice. You cannot choose not to change the world. Every choice you make will change it in some way. The question is whether the change, however great or tiny, is good or bad. Will it make the world a little better or a little worse? Now, can I promise you that the choices you make, any choice you make, will fix our fractured world? End transphobia, cure racism, bring peace to the Mideast, to Ukraine? That choosing a kind gesture, letting the guy with the Trump sticker in front of you in traffic, will open minds and build trust across this gaping political and moral divide? You know I can't. And if I did, I'd be lying to you, and you should back away slowly. But I can tell you that that isn't the standard to judge by. We shouldn't expect to see grand change from one choice. So this attitude of, well, I will choose love, if I know it will make some great big change in the world, that will inevitably lead you down the path to sophisticated resignation, because that's not how any of this works. And I would add, it's a little egotistical. Also a sin progressive liberals are tempted by. Look at that little girl in the Ukrainian subway, singing to her crowded, scared, probably just generally irritated and grumpy neighbors packed in there together. Did she end the war? No. Did her heartfelt performance find its way to Vladimir Putin and make his heart grow 4 sizes larger that day? No, it did not. Jury's still out on whether there's a heart there to grow in the first place. But she did sing. And did she make a 52-year-old man cry tears of joy and heartache in his Northeast Minneapolis kitchen? Hypothetically speaking, maybe. And then did that hypothetical man give money to Ukrainian relief? And then realizing that that's only one problem in the world, give a little more money to the Unitarian Universalist SC, Service Committee, thank you. Because she reminded him that there is so much need in the world, and not all of it by cute little white girls. And he, the hypothetical crying man, probably wasn't the only one. But even if none of that happened, if nobody had recorded the girl singing, which in this age is inconceivable, I realize, but it hadn't gone viral, it hadn't gotten on the news, it hadn't found its way onto my phone in my kitchen, okay, yes, it was me, she would have changed the world. In that moment, in that place, for those people. Did you hear how quiet it got? Even the crying kids quieted down. Did you see the woman sit next to her as the camera panned and she wiping away tears? And the smile on that girl's face and the way she closed her eyes when she sang? That's joy. She made a choice to make the world a little better, a little happier, a little brighter, if only for a little while. She changed the world. Now look, I know, a little girl singing her heart out is an easy choice. It's easy to say that's the right one. And not all of our choices are anywhere near that simple. Most of the time, we don't know which choice is going to bring more good, more love, or less suffering into the world. For many choices, there will be trade-offs. So what should you do? I can't tell you that. I don't have that answer. I don't know what all the choices are. And the right answer for you is different than it is for me. How much money should I contribute is a very different question for me than it is for Jeff Bezos. But theologian Gary Badcock thinks it's probably the wrong question. The question, he thinks, has to do with what one lives for than rather what one does. Instead of asking ourselves, what should I do? We should ask, what kind of person do I want to be? Keep asking and trying to answer that question. And the answer will change. But keep asking, keep answering, and we will find at least a guide for making choices about how we will change the world. In the last month, I preached about needing to brave being, to see ourselves as we really are, to see the world we live in as it really is, not as we wish it were, not as we are afraid it might be. And in the middle of that sermon, standing kind of where that camera is right now, I realized it might sound like an invitation to sophisticated resignation. Here it is, learn to live with it. Now, you're all smart people. You knew that wasn't my message. Because braving being is necessary as a first step to change. Not giving in, but getting ready. As James Baldwin said, not everything that is faced can be changed. But nothing can be changed until it is faced. And I get what Baldwin's going for here, but I think he's a little off. We do change things by not facing them. If we don't turn our gaze to the wrongs of the world, we make them stronger, embolden and bolster them. How else do you think white supremacy is still embedded in a society where almost everybody you ask will agree that racism is bad? We thought we'd mostly fixed it. What was left was hard, and we thought it was okay. And when we turned our backs, or just didn't focus our gaze, it thrived. Racism thrived. Thrives. Now, Buddhist scholar Anne Klein says that attention is the start of love. So I guess what I'm asking us to do is pay attention. Give our attention to the needs of the world, to the needs of the people of the world, and to the ways our choices affect those people and our world. I'm not saying that attention will always mean we make the right choice. It won't. But here's the thing. Just like those choose your own adventure books, we get to choose again. We don't get to go back, but we get another choice. And each choice isn't going to be at the end. It's not enough. Amy and I were talking the other day about land acknowledgement statements. That's a good choice, but it's not a good enough choice if it's where we stop. Choose again. Keep choosing. In our first reading this morning, Jay Garfield said we need to recognize our profound interdependence. And if we pay attention to that interdependence, to the way our choices ripple out across the interdependent web of all existence, impact other people, people we know, people we love, people we will never, ever meet, then more of our choices will be rooted in love. And that's the first and best choice we can make. So may it be.